On this episode of the Security Return.
A vulnerability scan and a pen test are not the same thing. You'll get that vulnerability scan, you think your business is secure, but then a real threat actor shows up and you are going to be in a lot of trouble.
For businesses, pen tests always seem like a nice to have, not a need to have, and one of the last things they invest in. But I would argue that it's actually incredibly valuable and one of the first things they should look at. This is the Security Return powered by Kairos Sec. I'm Dr. Gerald Auger alongside my co-host, senior offensive security professional, Tyler Ramsbey, and we're diving deep into this topic today. Tyler, what's up? You're at Kairos Sec. What exactly led you to open Kairos Sec, and what does pen testing got to do with these businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my big goals ever since I was in IT, like many people, is if you ask me, what do you want to do? Like, yo, I want to get paid to hack stuff just because it sounded amazing. It sounded like a lot of fun. And I've been in the industry for quite a bit of time doing that very thing, hacking, pen testing, red teaming, whatever name you want to call it, I have done it. But what I noticed is when it comes to an actual pen test, there's a bunch of companies that will sell you a pen test, but all it is a vulnerability scan. They kind of rebrand it to make it look like a report, and then they hand it to you. But here's the issue: a vulnerability scan and a pen test are not the same thing. You'll get that vulnerability scan, you think your business is secure, but then a real threat actor shows up and you are going to be in a lot of trouble. So I started Kairos Sec because I wanted to provide pen testing on a place that's really high quality, but also affordable and flexible depending on what the client is doing, what their goals are, and what their budget is. And so, really, the big difference: a vulnerability scan is you're doing an automated scan to see, hey, are there any low hanging bugs in the environment? Whereas a pen test, I am putting on that hacker hat and I am showing up in your environment. And not only am I enumerating, but I'm trying to exploit vulnerabilities, of course, in a safe way. But I want your organization to see what it's like if a threat actor is in your environment so we can identify, hey, here's a weak area. Here's a way that I could steal financial data. Here's a way that I could compromise your customers. And then afterwards, we give a nice detailed report showing this is exactly what I did. Here is some ways that you can remediate it at the end of the day to strengthen your business posture and to really protect your bottom line.
You know, as a business leader, I would be so frustrated to find out that I bought what I thought was a pen test and I'm actually getting a vulnerability scanner, because not having that context or awareness to know the difference and really what the value is of a true pen test versus that vulnerability scanner. So let's dig a little bit deeper on this. So, like, when you actually have a problem and security fails to a business, what breaks first? I mean, is it like revenue or operations? Is it my customers' trust?
It's a great question. I think most people immediately think of the revenue side of things. I mean, imagine for a moment, and hope it doesn't happen to anyone watching this, but many of us have experienced this, that you have that breach, and let's say it ends up being ransomware. Your machine is encrypted, your websites, your servers are all encrypted, and you now have business downtime. It could be a day, it could be a week, it could be longer. And for each day that your business is down, I mean, you know the money, you can calculate this is how much money we have lost each day. So that's initially what I think business leaders think of. But I actually think it goes much deeper and it comes down to trust. So if we imagine for a moment like a SaaS provider, they have a business at the top and they provide business to business sales and products to other businesses. Well, let's say that they're compromised. It's ransomware or data is exfiltrated out of their environment. Sure, you have the monetary impact of when your systems are down, but you also need to consider the trust component. Just like a personal relationship, like me and Jerry, we are friends. We have built trust over a length of time. But if I did something terrible and betrayed you, it would take a long time to build that trust, even if we have a long history. And that's same with the business as well. Outside of the monetary and financial impact, you really do have to think about the trust side of things. And then let's imagine you dig a little bit deeper after that happens and your clients find out, hey, you've never actually done a pen test. Maybe you did a vulnerability scan, but you've never done a pen test. And in many ways, you haven't done your due diligence, continuing to erode that long term trust. So, long answer short, monetary, financial is big, but the trust component that's harder to quantify, I would argue, has an even greater impact after a breach.
You know, as a information security professional, more on the CISO side of things, personally, one of the things that I value most about pen test is because I've dealt with real incidents and it's an adrenaline dump and people are, not following procedure. They're just reacting and trying to be in the moment. And it's a completely understandable human condition. With a pen test, it's almost like having a blanket where you get to effectively really simulate an attack, but you don't have to freak out because you can see, basically what you are doing. You, as a pen tester, you tell me what you're doing, and I don't need to guess that you've infected some other part of my network or compromised some other accounts that I don't know about. And it really is, to me, the best of both worlds because you get the peace of mind to see where you're exposed and get to fix it while also having confidence that there is an additional exposure because it's always so hard to prove a negative. Like, did we get
Mhm.
the threat actor completely out? I don't know. But with your pen testing, you let me know, and I genuinely appreciate that.
That's spot on. I mean, I think communication is huge. When you're looking for a pen test vendor, one of the best questions you can ask is, hey, how are we going to communicate throughout this project? Because a good pen test, in many ways, is a purple team, which let me just define those terms. A purple team is when the pen tester works alongside of your security team. So it's not the pen test versus the security team, but it's rather how can we work together to identify as many vulnerabilities and as many threats, and then how can we work together to remediate them? I'm going to just give you a real quick real world example. Just recently, I was on a pen test and I was looking at a client's internal network, so their Active Directory environment. And I found a critical vulnerability that would allow an outside attacker to take control of everything, to deploy ransomware, to exfiltrate data. Well, when we find something like that, we call it an early disclosure. I write it up immediately. I send it over to the client. And then the client was still a little bit confused because they weren't incredible, super technical. Like they don't do pen testing day in and day out. So I jumped on a call with the client and walked them through it step by step, showing them how I found it, showed them how to exploit it. But more importantly, we walked through, hey, here are some good ways to remediate it while balancing the business impact of the remediation. So when you're working with a pen test vendor, make sure communication is one of their big priorities, not just hacking all the things, but actually being able to speak well to both the technical and non-technical audience and really be your partner, not your adversary in the whole endeavor.
Now, I know as someone who, manages budget and frankly doesn't have a lot of it, sometimes it's a luxury to be able to hire pen testing services and consulting. So maybe I want to try to do it in house. Can you let us know, like, what's the most common way that attackers slip in that companies don't see coming?
By far, it's going to be the human element. If you've ever heard of scattered spider, they're kind of famous for that part of it causing major damage, all beginning with what is called social engineering. Now, I think a lot of companies wrongly think they're protected against social engineering. This might be a little bit of a hot take, but you might have an automated email system where on a quarterly basis, you send out phishing emails and it's like, hey, your UPS package is ready. And you hope your employees click the fish alert button and then you can like pat yourself on the back because only 1% of employees failed the phishing engagement. But here's the thing, when a real threat actor targets your organization, they're not sending out that your UPS package is ready for delivery. What I would do is I would pick a few specific employees, I would research their background, and I would end up actually in a recent engagement, I called the organization's help desk and they'd be like, hey, this is Tom. How can I help you? And I just hung up because what that told me is there's a guy named Tom who works in the help desk and I know the help desk phone number. So then what I do is I spoof their phone number. So on your caller ID, it's coming from the help desk. And I say, hey, this is Tom coming from the help desk. I just sent you an email. Did you receive it? Your answer is going to be no, because I haven't actually sent you an email yet. And then while I'm on the phone with you, I send the email over. Your guard is already down. You just want to get me off the phone and get on with your day. And I walk you through the email. You click into it. It brings up a cloned page of the employee portal, looks just like the employee portal. You enter in your credentials, it redirects you to the real portal. But in that moment, me, if I was a threat actor, I just stole your credentials and I can use those to then access your VPN, access your internal environment, access your mail, steal a bunch of sensitive data. And so a lot of companies, because they send out maybe a quarterly phishing email, they think, hey, we're good. We have employee awareness. You probably don't, unless you've done a real social engineering campaign that simulates something that's scattered spider would do, their whole tactics. And that's what we do for businesses, is making sure you understand, hey, this is the real risk. And I think another big benefit of Kairos Sec when we talk about budget is pen testing can be incredibly expensive. But what we do is we have some of our main services that we offer, but we customize it for the client. So we jump into a conversation with you and your team, figure out what you actually need, and we're not trying to upsell you some crazy pen test that doesn't fit your needs. So we're very sensitive to budget, to the timeline, and to scope, to what you actually want to accomplish. So I don't even know if I even answered your question, but that's how I would, those are two things that I would point to:
No,
the flexibility, but then the social engineering component.
yeah, no, you absolutely answered it. And I think you drove home the point on why I don't even want to do it in house. That sounds incredibly complicated, and one that you'd want to do, have a professional do for you. Tyler, let's do a lightning round. I've got like a fun segment. We're going to have a timer. We're going to have quick questions. You get 30 seconds to answer each one. Are you ready, Tyler?
Let's do it.
All right. First question. Only big companies need pen test. Is this a myth? True, false, or it depends?
It is false. If you look at threat actors and who they're going to target, they often go for the low hanging bugs. And so they don't care whether your company has 1,000 employees or 100 employees. Your company has money. They want your money. And it's the smaller companies, honestly, that are often easier to break into. So definitely a myth. Regardless of your company size, threat actors are coming after you, and you should get a pen test done.
All right. Time to spare. Next item. We'd know if we were breached. Who hasn't said that?
A lot of people have said that, but you would not know if you're breached, depending on the threat actor. So if I was in your environment, I could establish different methods of persistence. That means you can turn off your servers, you can shut things down. Guess what? I'm still there, and you are not going to detect me if I don't want you to detect me. So more than likely, you will not know if you have been breached.
All right. Still leaving time on the clock, Tyler. I have a sounder, so if you run out of time, we're going to use it, but I haven't had a chance yet. Don't worry. We'll get you at some point. Next one. Are you ready? Here we go. Pen tests are just vulnerability scans.
No, they are not. Well, I guess there's a caveat there. Some pen test firms call it a pen test, and it is just a vulnerability scan. You sort of get what you pay for. If you pay for the cheapest pen test you can possibly get, you're getting an SS scan, nothing else. But a real pen test is focused on manual exploitation, targeting whatever the goals are, and helping your business understand the risk. And
All
I
right.
finished, I was
Timer, timer.
close.
All right. The next one is near and dear to my heart as a GRC professional. Here we go. Cyber insurance means we're covered. We don't need a pen test.
Well, for a lot of cyber insurance, you do need a pen test to even qualify for the cyber insurance, depending on what you signed up for. But let's remember again that the biggest issue with the breach is the customer trust. Cyber insurance doesn't ensure trust from your customers. You might get a little bit of money back depending on what happened, but you cannot restore that trust just because you have cyber insurance. So cyber insurance, I have it myself as well for Kairos Sec, but it is not enough as far as pen testing goes.
Next one we got is compliance equals security.
Uh, Unfortunately for the GRC professionals, GRC is incredibly important, but compliance does not equal security. I have hacked into very large organizations, legally, of course, that on the GRC and compliance side of things, they were fully compliant, fully secure. But here's the thing: there's people, and people are not robots, and people can be tricked or engineered into revealing information they shouldn't reveal. And then I'm in your environment, and you will be compromised. I had to talk really fast that time.
All right. And finally, security. It slows down the business.
So you do have to balance business risk, business impact of whatever remediation you are doing. But security done well does not slow down the business. It actually empowers your business to be better at what you are doing. What really slows down your business is ignoring security. Threat actor will show up. They will compromise you. Your business will be down for a significant amount of time. And once again, you'll erode trust. You'll lose money. But nothing is slower than a business that, well, can't run anymore.
All right. And thus concludes our lightning round. Thank you for playing along, Tyler. I definitely enjoyed that. So let's, look at a strategic view here, right? So you've mentioned doing a pen test, right? And usually one of the key deliverables, at least whenever I've had pen testing done, is that report, right? That final disposition report. Beyond that report, what does a pen test give a business leader?
So it really depends on the firm. So I can only speak for Kairos Sec. At Kairos Sec, if you get a pen test with us, it comes with a few different things automatically. You don't have to pay anything additional. One is, of course, you have the pen test itself, but what we do a little bit different is we try to be over communicative with the client. So we'll let you know in the beginning of the day, here's what we're working on. At the end of the day, here's everything we covered. But if you have a security engineer, someone on the blue team in your organization who is interested in pen testing, we'll even invite them to shadow. So if you want your team to be cross-trained on what I am doing, we'll invite you into the process. So that's one big thing that we do that most companies don't do. Of course, you have the report, and the report, you have your executive summary, the detailed findings, and then steps to remediate. We can talk all day about a report, but that's a pretty standard thing that you get for a pen test. We also offer a debrief, and that's at no additional cost to the client. It means that I'll jump into a call with your entire team. I'll share my screen. I'll walk you through the report step by step, answer any questions you have. And another thing we do that, once again, is nothing additional, is included in every pen test, is we do remediation testing. So let's say we found a few critical or high vulnerabilities in your environment. We generally say 90 days, but to be honest, we're flexible. But we'll say at the end of the engagement, you have 90 days to work on remediating these. Once you have them remediated, you reach out to us. We'll jump back into your environment, retest those specific vulnerabilities, and then give you an updated pen test report, removing some of those high ones and showing that your team is proactive. And you can share some of that information with customers, at least at a high level overview, that not only did you get a pen test, but you also remediated those vulnerabilities, showing that your security is proactive and you actually do care about their data and care about their trust.
I appreciate that as, again, as a CISO and business leader, just having you come in and knock all my things down and then tell me, oh, it looks awful. There you go. Being able to come back and do that remediation testing, making sure that my IT counterparts and my staff have properly implemented the controls that we need to, because really that's the value, right? You finding the problems is part of the value, but me actually closing them and reducing risk. That's ultimately what my goal is as a CISO for the organization. So I definitely appreciate that. It's a partner feel more than it is just a transaction. And I definitely love that.
Absolutely.
As far as my final thoughts go, pen testing, I definitely understand what it is. I definitely understand the value proposition of it. And I'm glad that we talked about how vulnerability scans are not pen test. I'm not looking for compliance. I'm looking for risk reduction. And that's really the value that I see coming from a pen test and you, Tyler, at Kairos Sec. Tyler, final thoughts.
Yes. Hey, well, if you would like to work with Kairos Sec, we would love to work with you. Another thing that sets us apart is how quick we are to respond. So if you head over to our website, kairos-sec.com, we have a contact us page, super simple, name, email, and brief overview of your pen test needs. But we will reach out to you within 24 hours to get a call scheduled so we can begin working on your project. And every project, every quote, everything is customized specifically to your organization to make sure that we are actually hitting what you need and not just trying to sell you a bunch of silly things. It is actually going to be useful for your organization. So we'd love to work with you. We'd love to have a conversation with your team.
All right, that's kairos-sec.com. This has been the Security Return powered by Kairos Sec. Again, I'm Dr. Gerald Auger alongside Senior Offensive Security Professional Tyler Ramsbey. Until next time, stay secure.